Wednesday on the Big Tech Radio series on AM 760 KGU, broadcasting across the
Yes, it's me. It's Jay Fidel, Think Tech Hawaii, and here we are on Wednesday, a given Wednesday. And we're talking about, of course, we're talking about energy on Wednesday. I mean, that's sort of inculcated, right? Wednesday equals energy, right? Of course, you should think about energy all week long anyway, but Wednesday especially. Hawaii, the state of clean energy. And with me here today is my co-host, Sharon Moriwaki of the Hawaii Energy Policy Forum.
Aloha.
She's also the co-chair of the Hawaii Energy Policy Forum and a great co-host. We have Larry Newman, who's here from Hawaii Energy. He talks about efficiency every single week. You guys are so creative. You come up with this stuff. I don't know how you do it at 2 in the morning. It's amazing. What an organization. My regards to Ray Starling, of course, as usual.
I'll pass on the word.
Okay, and especially Jeff Michelina from Blue Planet Foundation. And today's show is going to be myth-busting, like ghost busting, but myth-busting. Actually, the whole notion of myth-busting is taken out of that movie, Ghostbusters, right? You know, if you want to make something really ephemeral, like smoke, call it busting. Refers back to the movie. Anyway, so we're talking about myth-busting about solar, about PV solar, may I say this, in the view of the Blue Planet Foundation.
Yeah, fair enough.
Okay, you know, and so we get an idea where we're going on that. You may disagree, you know, with Jeff, and if you do, in fact, if you disagree or agree, either way, you can call if you dare. 296-5467. Okay, I'm calling on you people. Give us 2 hands clapping on these issues as we talk about these myths. And to get ready to talk about the myths, you know, to get intellectually warmed up for this discussion, Larry, it's up to you. What do you got for the negawatt moment this week, this Wednesday?
We're going to warm up with solar thermal, actually solar hot water. Solar hot water is a great investment to make. Hawaii Energy offers a $1,000 rebate for the purchase or financing of a solar thermal system. Typically they cost around $6,000, but with our rebate and available tax credits, you can have a solar water heating system for about $2,200. These systems are inspected by Hawaii Energy inspectors. You can be confident that you're going to get a well-built system. You can go to our website and find over 70 participating contractors that work through the program. That means they've been trained by the program.
I thought this was a news show, Larry.
This is news.
This is an idea that's 30 years old.
This is news to a lot of people.
What's news? Okay.
This is news. A lot of people are not aware.
For those of you who don't know about solar water heaters, now is a big opportunity.
There are a few out there that still haven't gotten religion, so to speak.
Back to the future.
Yeah. If you're a family of 3 or more, you should be seriously considering solar thermal. What else can I say about it?
More incentives. That's
$1,000 again. You should go to the Hawaii Energy website, hawaiienergy.com. You can get a lot of information about the systems, available contractors to contact, or you can call us directly and just say, I'm interested in solar thermal.
Is that step 1?
It is.
They should call you. What's your telephone number?
I got it right here. On Oahu, 537-5577. If you're on the neighbor islands, we have plenty of participating contractors there as well. You can call toll-free at 877-231-8222. And if you're not near your phone, which is rare nowadays, but you can always check our website out, hawaiienergy.com.
Okay. And should they ask to speak with you?
God, no. Although I will talk to them if they insist. I got a phone too.
So they make this call, and Hawaii Energy is going to advise them the steps to follow.
Yeah, and it's really going to
go. It's a painless package, right? It's not hard to do this.
It's not hard to do. It's not hard to do. You can talk to any of our representatives. They will likely steer you back to our website where you can look through a list of participating contractors. And even on our website, there are a few steps listed to start. We do advise to do your shopping. Call up 3 contractors. They'll come to your home. They'll take a walk around your property, take a look at the roof, position the system, and give you a very simple estimate, which should be, you know, in the ballpark of what I mentioned, around $6,000 or so.
So here's the big thing, though. Everybody talks about PV, but PV is actually step number 2. This, what you're talking about, is step number 1.
That's right. Solar thermal can drop your bill by 40%. If you do not use air conditioning, hot water will take about 40% of your home energy use. So you can cut your bill by 40% by putting panels on your roof. They just don't happen to generate any electricity. They heat the water with the sun.
So Jeff Michelina of Blue Planet Foundation, we always offer our guests a special opportunity here on Think Tech Energy. And the opportunity is that you can cross-examine Larry. He's up to it. He's very sharp, he can handle it, and he's not shy. So do you have any cross-examination?
Yeah, I'd be happy
Larry?
to. Larry, you know, hot water's great and all, but you know, I don't want to void my warranty in my roof. I don't want to be leaking into the living room. What about if it rains for 40 days and 40 nights? I mean, come on. Let's get with the 21st century here.
Well, I'm glad you've opened the show with a myth, because it is a myth. Like I said, our systems are all inspected. We have a 100-point inspection on every system. It does include roof penetrations. And I've been with the program 3 years. I have yet to hear a single complaint on any kind of roof leaking. And the program itself, these standard specifications have been in the marketplace for, we're now in our 17th year. So there really haven't been no issues with roof leakage at all.
And if it does leak, it's warm. So.
But it doesn't.
No.
But it doesn't. Yeah.
Okay, I guess
Well, we
more
could keep
questions
going,
if we
but
could.
no, that's good. And I'm really glad you started with that, because people are so enamored with photovoltaic, but sometimes you forget about this most basic, you know, the most basic. This is something that the Romans did thousands of years back. So it is back to the future, and taking the easiest steps first.
And it's a relatively quick payback. Family of 3 or 4, it's a payback 3 to 4 years. So you're in the black.
It's a no-brainer.
I do think so.
What about in a rainy neighborhood? I'm asking this question for Sharon because she also has cross-examination. What about in a rainy neighborhood where it rains all the time?
On rare occasion, it may be borderline, but rarely. The sun is always shining. It's a matter of the cloud cover. There is a concept for your listeners of a sunshine zone, the intensity of the sun. It's not the intensity of the sun is the same everywhere, but it's how much rain. So on Everside, it's a very hot area, but it's also a very sunny area, very little cloud cover. That's in a 500 sun zone, meaning you got sun all day long, no cloud cover. You can use smaller panels. Where it's rainy, it's less sun. You've got a 300 or 350 sun zone. You're going to need bigger panels. But it's a matter of how much hot water do you need, and let's size the panels appropriately so that they're collecting enough of that solar radiation to heat the water.
So
There
one
is
question,
news here.
I have one question. Is there any place, I mean, we can get these systems in any place and they'll work, or are there places, does it have to have the sun? Can I put it in, you know, a really mountainous area that's very shady and, you know, doesn't get any sunlight, and I still could get my water heater?
Shade is a no-no. So if you don't have a direct line to the sun, that's going to be a problem.
It is a solar water heater. So.
It is a solar water heater. So you do need
So you
access
can't
to
get
sunshine.
Okay.
You need access to sunshine.
And so when your contractors come out, they can say, do you have enough sun here in order to
Absolutely.
put one in?
They actually have a tool that they use that at any time of the year they can determine if your roof, where they want to put the panels, and this is the same for PV as well, that's going to have a direct line of sight to the sun. Not that a tree happens to shade it, or a building next door happens to put your roof in shading during the peak time of the year.
Nicely handled. I mean, I think the questions were good, a little sharp. You did a good job again, Larry. But I
Even
got to
on a
ask you
cloudy
one
day,
thing.
you'll wear your sunglasses because it's
Learned
still
something
sunshine.
new here. There was some news, and that is this thing about Sierra Zulu sun zone. This is not a lotion, by the way. So how do I find out the sun zone for my house?
There are resources on DBED. They do have the sun zones posted.
By neighborhood.
It's not quite by neighborhood. If you can imagine a topographical map in your mind, it's very similar. So you'll see kind of ISO lines that will identify the sunshine zones.
And this will help me in making an evaluation on whether to do it and what size of panels.
Yeah, and when you talk to your
Yeah.
participating solar
I
contractor.
always like, it's like you gotta
Ask
know
them.
the answer before you ask the question, right? And so when you ask your participating installer, you want to know a little about the sun zone.
Yeah.
Okay, and you say 500 is where it's really sunny, 300 where it's sort of middle of the road,
No, that's rainy.
That's rainy.
That's the low end.
and 400 be okay.
Kind of in the middle. They're all okay. It's just sizing the system appropriately.
Well, thank you, Larry. It's been great. It's been
You're
grand.
welcome.
Hang around, because then you'll have a chance to put some cross-examination to Jeff Michelina right after this breakdance. We're going to have a breakdance. We'll be right back with Hawaii, the state of clean energy, with Sharon Moriwaki and me, and Larry Newman and Jeff Michelina. We're talking about solar myth busting from the view of Blue Planet Foundation, which is wearing a blue shirt. We'll be right back.
Think Tech Wednesday on
Thank you, Jack Waters. We're back, we're live, we're here on Think Tech on Wednesday, Hawaii, the State of Clean Energy. We have Sharon Moriwaki, my co-host. We have Larry Newman, and we have Jeff Michelina, our major guest. We love having you here, Jeff. This is good.
Thanks,
Right,
Jeff.
Sharon?
That's
This
right.
is good.
Thank you.
Okay, I want to say that our sponsors for this show, if you didn't know it, there'll be a short examination after this. Hawaii Energy, Larry represents them. DBED, okay, it's really important. And Hawaiian Electric. Those three are our special sponsors. Although we have others, those are our sponsors for this show. Also, I want to take a moment, a little housekeeping, and mention that on August 22nd, which is Thursday, a week from tomorrow, We're having one of our monthly panel programs at the Plaza Club. This is Hawaii Venture Capital Association and Think Tech. And this is called Don't Be Afraid to Send Your Kid or CEO to China. Okay, and the subtitle is Stories of Daring Do and Life, Liberty, and the Pursuit of Happiness. That's from the U.S. Declaration of Independence. Life, Liberty, and Pursuit of Happiness in the People's Republic of China. Okay, we're gonna talk to like 5 people who have been there, lived there for some substantial period of time, and can tell us how it is and whether we should be concerned about gas masks. You know, that was in the paper today. And other problems that you may hear about from China, or whether it's really a great way to spend your time. My own view, and we can explore this at the program, is it's good, it's healthy, it's like vitamins. You go to like soup, like chicken soup. You go there, it helps you. You come back to Hawaii, and you are a better person for it. Larry Foster is our moderator. His wife Brenda Foster, who was the president of the Shanghai American Chamber of Commerce for some years, is on the panel. Shackley Ruffetto, you know him?
I don't.
You would remind me of him, Jeff, actually. Shackley Ruffetto, an old buddy of mine, a circuit judge in Maui for many years. When he retired, he decided to go and teach law and you know, jurisprudence in China, which he's doing in Beijing. Derek Brow, who is actually a tennis star, who went there to take a master's in law without having a law degree. I think that's really interesting. And a woman named Miki Shishido, who was working for DBED, one of our sponsors in China. And all of them are going to talk about their experiences. Oh, I forgot one. Russell Liu, who's a lawyer from Bishop Street here, who's been practicing law in an American firm doing business in Beijing for quite some time. So don't be afraid to send your kid or CEO to China. Come to our program next Thursday. hvca.org is where you can register. Hope to see you there. Okay, moving on.
Back to energy.
It sounds interesting, though. I want to go.
Okay, well, so we're talking about myths today, and Jeff has been so kind as to identify 4 principal myths, and we're going to talk about these myths. These myths are myths about photovoltaic on your roof. And the first myth, he told me what they were in advance. I guess the first question is, are they really myths? Okay. I mean, how real is a myth? I mean, a myth by definition is not real, right?
So yeah, I would preface by saying these are observations that we hear from people.
Okay.
You know, when people push back and say, this solar thing is great, but, and then it's usually followed by some observation on their part.
You actually don't agree with any of these.
You know, I think, like anything, there's an element of truth, but it's all about digging and looking at the facts and figuring out, you know, where that truth really lies.
Okay, all right, ready, Larry?
Yes, let's
You
move.
can make
Let's
notes.
go. Let's
Everybody
go.
can make notes. Okay, the first myth is rooftop does not pay its rooftop solar PV does not pay its fair share. Okay, is that true?
So this is something we've been hearing quite a bit, particularly with the explosion of photovoltaic statewide. You know, people see more rooftops with solar, and they think there's a split between the haves and the have-nots. You know, if they're essentially getting a $17 a month bill, which is what the rate is once you get rid of your whole load, the other folks might be carrying the share of paying for the grid and the O&M and everything else it takes to keep the lights on. So there's some comforting. It's seductive to think that must be true. I mean, it has to be true. But really, when you dig into the numbers, it tells a different story. And I think we would all benefit from really understanding those numbers better. We just took a look at 2012 and looked at how much energy was produced from photovoltaic systems, and how much of that was fed into the system, and how much was consumed by customers. Because as it works in Hawaii, you get credits for the energy you push out onto the grid. Those credits roll over just like minutes in a cell plan up to a year. But after a year, reconciliation period ends, those are just given to the utility. And then those electrons are used by someone else essentially for free. I mean, it doesn't cost the utility anything once you gift those electrons. So in 2012, I want to make sure I get the number right, about 17 million in sales of these electrons that were surplus after the year reconciliation period from photovoltaic owners was pushed out into the grid. The utility claimed about 5 million. That's about 5 million more than it cost them to recoup the lost revenue from customers. So that's just a back-of-the-envelope sort of guess. It looks like more was pushed out onto the grid than it actually cost. I don't think we really know, and we really need to dig into this issue. Other places have done it. California did a study, or Cross-Border Energy did a comprehensive study in California looking at the net cost to customers. There are a lot of benefits from having distributed generation, less wear and tear in the system, obviously fuel cost savings from utility. But we really need to look at all the numbers and not just instinctively say, there must be some subsidy going on here.
Why do we care?
Well, we care because
why do we do this examination?
As we see this growth, and it is exponential growth, even though there's some slowing down in industry.
Still not that high a percentage of the total product.
It's not yet, but just like any new technology adoption, I mean, that curve, you hit the inflection and it shoots up, and that's where we are. I mean, this is really a disruptive technology. So we want to make sure we get ahead of that and put policies in place to A, protect those who can't participate, or find tools to enable them to participate, and just make sure that we're really setting the right path, because Hawaii is the tip of the spear for this stuff.
You mean the national sphere? Maybe the
national,
global sphere.
Global sphere. I
Yeah.
mean, some of the penetration, certainly for hot water, and that's a different animal, but solar hot water, highest per capita in the nation. Photovoltaic, I think number 2, number 3, but we should be number 1, and we see that trend. So let's make sure we get the rules of the road right, and understanding this fairness and who pays and how we structure it is really important.
Okay, so a couple of tests on this, okay? Just make the crosshairs on it, right? And assume that everybody who has or doesn't have solar is paying this $17 connection fee. Now, the guys who don't have solar are paying for the guys who do have solar, isn't that true? And if you shrink down the number of guys who don't have solar to 1,
that last guy,
the last man standing was a great movie. The last man standing, he's going to pay buku bucks. So, and of course that's not going to happen. Something will change before we get there. But as you go down that path, it becomes to get unfair, because he's paying more and they're not paying a connection fee, or not paying anything beyond the connection fee. So what's your answer to that?
I think it's fair to look at those boundaries, and that the boundary on that is certainly the last person, and everyone paying $17
I may be
a
the
month.
last person.
Well, that's the lesson right there. Jump on before. But I think we need to look at reality, and reality is, we're at 5 to 7% today, and what is that cost, or what is that benefit to those who don't have solar from those who do, and to understand those numbers and really start to predict. But then we have to decide how do we go forward. What is the right number? In California, you spend $6 a month if you have a net meter system and you're off. You're getting rid of your load.
Fee.
Yeah. In Hawaii, it's $17. What is the right amount? Let's figure it out. If it is $30, if it's $10.
I hear what you're saying is that it should be more, but we don't know how much yet.
We don't know, but we need to look at it. But this is also.
It could be an algorithm, a formula. That would be a fair formula, based on, computers can do this, based on the actual experience. It could change every month, based on what's going on out there, how much is being sold back, how many people are on what side of the equation. So it could be, 50, 60, 70, who knows what. And the last man standing, if you follow that same formula, there's going to be a much higher connection fee for everybody else. So I guess what I'm saying is, inherent in your answer, Jeff, it seems to me that you are agreeing it could be, maybe soon should be higher than it is today.
I'm not going to fall for that one. But I think we need to look at it. And the other thing that's putting pressure on this is, we saw in the last couple of weeks some announcements from local companies selling home storage. Island Pacific was one of those companies, batteries. And we've talked about this for years, but it really looks like we're starting some major manufacturers providing products where
What's the technology?
people, most of it today is simple lithium-ion batteries, AA batteries that are in rows and rows, and just like a server in your home. Those are the same batteries that power the Tesla. So it's right now that's where it's at, but it's going to be evolving quickly. And as it evolves, you have this new disruptive technology where people say, should I remain connected to the grid and get this rate, or should I just be my own power producer? And when that happens, then it's a different dynamic.
Yeah, that could change. I mean, I have this recurrent dream. May I tell you about it?
Is it G-rated?
Yes. Somewhere in the back end of Manoa Innovation Center, before the university shuts it down, I mean, there'll be a guy, and he will develop a girl, okay? Develop a little record reflect. I'm showing a very small object with 2 prongs. It's a transistor affair, okay, and it holds a charge. a huge charge, and it's about 3/8 of an inch big. And I string these together, okay, in one great big box, thousands of them, and I have software and an algorithm that makes them work together, okay? And I put energy in there by the carload in this little box, and I can get the energy out just when I want it. And all we got to do is make that little transistor. Okay?
Other than that.
Other than that. Now this would change the world, don't you agree?
It would.
That person would be, he'd make Bill Gates look like a piker.
But folks are pouring big bucks into that, and it might not be a transistor, maybe an ultra capacitor. They're looking at that sort of technology, and that you're right. And I think we will get there. I mean, we had the same sort of thing happen with in the IT industry. The first storage took up half a carport, and it cost $50,000. And today you can get a tiny little flash drive that holds 64 gigabytes for next to nothing. So I think that same evolution we'll see for storage.
Well, I think it's such a huge market, huge possibility, and I think it would be totally disruptive. And I guess the question is the people who, we have to take a break. The people who are doing this now with the lithium, how much do they pay for residence?
We could get to that after the break.
Okay, that's my line. We're going to get to that right after the break. That's Jeff McElina answering any question. Larry Newman, Sharon Moriwaki, Hawaii, the state of clean energy. We'll be right back after this break. Spent 8 years there.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah, we have a little sign in our studio here. But I'm not going to tell you on the air what it is. It's the same sign that they have in Hawaii Public Radio. It's a common denominator sign. If you want to know what our studio looks like, if you want to participate in our gallery, you can come down. Just write me, j@fidel.com. You'll be glad you did.
Or call. Tell the number to call.
Or call. What number is that, Sharon?
The two, where is it?
Oh, the number is 296-5467.
5467.
Yeah, get connected. Okay, and this is, by the way, this is Think Tech Hawaii. I'm Jay Fidel. We're talking about Hawaii Energy, the Hawaii Energy Policy Forum, Sharon Moriwaki, and the state of clean energy in Hawaii. And we have Larry Newman, Sharon Waukee, and Jeff Michelini here today for a spirited discussion of a number of myths which we are going to bust or not. Okay, and I guess I'm going to finish the first myth. We do have time for that. And as we left it, there was a question about what does it cost to do this lithium battery affair at home. This is really important because this is a breakout kind of technology. This lets you go to the next step, lets the community go to the next step. How much does it cost?
You know, from what we understand, current prices are about $1 a watt, which, to put that in terms that you understand, you know, a typical home will use about 20 kilowatt hours in a day. So if you wanted a 20 kilowatt hour of storage, that'd be about 20 grand. You probably don't need that much because during the day you're producing and using energy. You just need to store the stuff overnight. But maybe you want to go off the grid, so you need a few days worth plus. So it sounds expensive. It's in the tens of thousands of dollars. But just like any new technology, you know, the first cell phones, you had that expense, but you just watch that technology curve just drive the price down. So as soon as you cut that price in half, and you have something that's really cost competitive, and people will start thinking, do I want to remain on the grid, or am I going to go it alone and produce my own power, use my own power, add electric vehicles to that equation, and now things are really disruptive.
You know, Think Tech uses batteries all day long, not big ones, little ones. Okay, we use them in our cameras, and we learned not to use lithium batteries. Why? Because when they go down fast, and you can't even tell. Poof, gone. So they last great, okay, but at the last you can't tell what your situation is. So I'm wondering about that. I'm also wondering about the whole thing with electric cars, where the battery only lasts for so long. It does not last the life of the car. System for, I don't know, let's say $30,000-$40,000 with credits after it and all. And I buy batteries to back it up, which it's a great conceptual improvement, but it's not going to last. It shouldn't be fooled here. It's not going to last as long as the PV system. Somewhere along the line, probably, under current technology, you're going to have to replace it at what, 10, 20, 30?
Well, we'll see. Again, the technology is changing so quickly.
That's true.
It could be. We could have those flux capacitors or your little transistor things that are
widget thing,
the
which probably
crystals.
wouldn't have to be replaced at all.
That's right.
You want to go in on this? We can investigate. Okay. Anyway, so the other point just to make on this first myth, that is rooftop doesn't pay its share, is what about the notion that is now in place, namely the utility pays you under net metering pretty much the same as you pay it for a given kilowatt hour. And there's no spread for the utility, thus no motivation for the utility. And the question is, should that be changed going forward? I mean, what's your view of how we refine this whole system to make it work, on a ongoing, sustainable basis? Do we change that?
Well, I think embedded in your question is some more myths, particularly about the motivation for the utility. It is. I know how you attorneys work, and some of that thinking is, what is the benefit to the utility? Last year they got millions in benefit from free electrons from photovoltaic owners. So there is a direct benefit there. But we're the first to say we all would benefit from a deep understanding of these numbers and see what the benefits are, what the costs are, what's the fair payment amount monthly and for that surplus electricity. Keeping in mind that you have this disruptive storage technology that could change things. So how do we make sure we don't create a system where we're pushing everyone off the grid and leaving it for the last person standing? So all of this, we really owe it to ourselves to do that deep analysis and understand what those numbers are.
Okay, now my next question, and it's still on myth 1. We're going to have to move a little quicker on this 2, 3, and 4. But how do we make these decisions? I mean, I could go back to the drawing boards. Sharon and me and Larry, maybe all 4 of us, go back to the drawing boards, and we could come up with a formula, an algorithm, and plug it into a computer, and that'd be that. And in our view, it would be fair. But obviously, that's not the way things go. You have to discuss this for at least 27 years. You have to run it by legislative committee after committee. You have to socialize it with the entire state, down to the last man, woman, and child, before this would be accepted, right? How do we get this thing through?
I think this is one of those issues. I mean, I hear what you're saying, and for certain issues, that's the truth. typically when there's a lot of opposition. I think with this, everyone's pretty much aligned. I mean, we all want this clean energy future. There are different interests. Solar folks want to sell as much solar as possible. People want the cheapest bills. We all want fairness. The utility wants to stay in business and have healthy profits. But all of this can align, and it's just getting the numbers right and making sure the intents are all aligned there. So we have a good process. I think the commissioners they're really they're up in this issue. I think they're also hungry for information. And I think that process works, particularly when we have good collaboration.
They're going to make this decision.
I think actually with this issue, it could fall to the legislature. And then it's a slightly different animal, maybe less fact-based and more political-based. But again, I think we are mostly aligned on this issue and can...
Is there somebody working on it right now? Somebody,
Somebody
in a carrel somewhere, in a library somewhere, who's scratching out a formula. When are we going to see this actually materialize?
I think within the next 2 years, this will be a top-of-mind legislative and PUC issue.
We're on record here, What you say is going to proliferate. You might be quoted in these comments, Jeff.
But it's important, and it's important that we get it right, because again, we're really the vanguard for these issues, and others will be watching how we settle it.
I agree. And we have to keep on pushing, though. I mean, again, the most important thing, especially in Hawaii, is to have good memory.
Not the goldfish, huh?
Okay, next myth. Unless Larry, you want to ask him a question?
No, please. Let's go to myth 2.
Next myth.
I'm hungry. What's myth 2?
Okay, that photovoltaic on your roof is not reliable, and you can't generate it at night, so it really can't help us all that much. It's only for a few hours during a good day.
Yeah, and
that sounds very.
It sounds pretty good.
To me,
I mean, most people believe that the sun comes up in the morning, and I'm glad Larry talked about hot water, because that's one example of solar energy that has built-in storage. You heat up the water, you put it in an insulated tank, and at midnight you have hot water. So that's one thing. There are other technologies similar. Using concentrated solar power, like the SOPAG sorts of technologies that heat up mineral oil, or in the Nevada desert, you heat up molten salt, and store that heat, that thermal energy overnight. But really, again, this is where technology is coming in, and it's really exciting to watch electric vehicles and storage playing a role in storing this sunlight overnight, storing it in a transportation mode, and then possibly in the future using those cars to power your home, power a business. So that's the technology side. We can also do stuff on the regulatory side or the economic side to just align our usage with the availability of clean energy. If we have more and more photovoltaic, and we see that sharp peak right at the peak sun hour at noon or 1 o'clock, what if we make it more affordable to use electricity at that time, so we can match our load with our peak? So time of use rates could drive some of that. Other incentives to move that peak to match our load.
I've heard that many times, including for people in the utility.
Yeah, it makes good sense.
I mean, if we had the peaking plant, for example, the peaking plant works very quickly. When you go to peaking, turn a dial and whoop, goes right up. So if the solar is coming down, then the peaking plant will take over the load. This is really important, and maybe it makes the whole thing work. But we only have one peaking plant. It's expensive. It actually runs on biofuel.
Right.
It's very interesting. And in order to go from where we are right now, I'm interested in your answer to this.
Yeah.
You may have a few seconds to think about your answer. If in order to go from where we are right now to a state full of peaking plants, that will handle the transition at sunset, for example, it's going to cost us, what did I say before, Uku bucks times 10. What do we do? What are we going to do with all these generation plants? What do you sell them in Taiwan? What do we do?
So one of the great things about this energy challenge, is we have a toolbox of solutions, and I think what you're looking at is how we address the problem maybe 20, 25 years ago. There are other ways to address this. Instead of a peaking plant, instead of turning this dial of supply, we could also turn the dial of demand. This is something that Hawaii Energy is interested in as well, is, instead of the sun, all of a sudden a bunch of clouds come and we're losing that supply, what if we just dial back all the air conditioners in Waikiki or refrigeration somewhere else?
Whether they like it or not.
But
Big Brother is dialing back your air conditioning.
You can do it in such a way where it's imperceptible.
A degree. That's all it takes.
Turning off the compressor of a fridge for...
Guys talked before.
Never met him.
He seems like a nice person. Go ahead.
So there are ways to address this challenge that don't necessitate building a lot of peaking plants. There might be some, and hey, a biofuel-powered peaking plant could fill in that gap. So could demand response. So could other, tools such as storage. So we have a lot of approaches to deal with those challenges of variable supply, and it's a legitimate problem. I mean, that's not a myth. We know that the sun goes down. We know we have clouds. We know that the wind dies down. So let's find 21st century approaches to dealing with it.
I agree with you, but I would say that where we are right now and where we want to go in Nirvana land, where it all works with swell, is going to take some time, and it's going to take a lot of money, and it's going to, and in Hawaii, nay. It's going to take a lot of conversation.
It is, but it's going to take the best of us to the degree that we can get there, and this is a problem that's worth solving. And I think solving it with approaches that are, let's just build a lot of natural gas peaking plants because that's the way California did it. I think we can be more creative than that and actually offer a solution that the rest of the world wants. How do you do this on islands with small grids, with big challenges? And I think we can come together and do this.
I love this conversation, Jeff. Thank you so much for coming on the show. And thank you for mentioning natural gas. I was waiting for my owners to ask you that. So liquid natural gas, it just happened to be in the paper today. Or was it in an email from the web? Anyway, we'll talk about it when we come back from this break. That's your line. And I'll ask you, where does that fit? I think I know your answer. We'll be right back. This is Hawaii, the State of Clean Energy. I'm Jay Fidel of Think Tech. We're here with Sharon Moriwaki, my co-host, and Larry Newman of Hawaii Energy, and Jeff Piccolina, our star-studded host, a guest, host too.
Please no.
Talking about myth busting in photovoltaic. We'll be right back. Thank you, Jack Waters. Thank you, Leo Rodriguez. Yes, we're here. We're live. We're still here. We're still here talking about Hawaii, the state of clean energy, with Sharon Moriwaki of the Energy Policy Forum, Larry Newman of Hawaii Energy, and Jeff Michelina of the Blue Planet Foundation. We're talking about myths. And the question, just for a moment, that we left before the break was LNG. Where does it fit in all this? We're talking about a sort of a nirvana where we can power much more of the state with photovoltaic. Where does LNG fit? Jeff?
That's the question, and Nirvana was in the question there too.
Nirvana was in the question.
You know, I think again, just like the other issue, this deserves a good hard look at the numbers. At Blue Planet, you know, obviously our mission is to end the use of fossil fuel on Earth. We see a sustainable future that's fossil fuel free. Natural gas, we don't have any natural gas in Hawaii. It's a fossil fuel we import. There's no current, or we would be importing, there's no current export terminals on the West Coast. So before we really start to, embrace that as a potential, we really want to understand the cost, the climate impacts, and then basically the infrastructure costs, because these are going to be we might foreclose other options as we invest in infrastructure for that. What we saw in the paper today, the gas company looking at bringing in small containerized LNG to supplant their SNG production.
Yeah, so there's, what do you call it?
Synthetic.
Synthetic, thank you.
And that's something that, okay, fine, this is a small, what concerns us though is the prospect of natural gas in a big way, where we invest hundreds of millions in infrastructure, in retooling power plants, and going down that road instead of embracing a clean energy future. And it is a split. I mean, we have to make these capital investments and commit to approach, and we really are worried about those long-term costs, both for climate, for the actual cost to consumers. And it's already having an effect. As people talk about LNG being this potential, we see it as derailing efficiency projects, derailing other biofuel projects, potentially pushing out other renewable things, because people are saying, hey, this cheap energy future is coming, when we don't know.
Yeah, clean energy and cheap energy are not the same thing.
It depends how you define it, right? If we're looking at the long-term costs, we're looking at the environmental costs, our safest, most cost-effective, cleanest future is using indigenous renewable fuels.
Okay, well, I hope it all works out. It sounds fairly complex. I mean, I hope we all live long enough to see this realized in the way that Blue Planet sees it happening. If it can get that way, it'd be really a beautiful thing.
I think it's inevitable. It's how long it's going to take to get there.
We should all live a long time.
We should.
Okay, I want to, because Sharon is making me do this, I want to go to the next myth. The next myth is that solar power is too expensive and it's only for the rich people, okay?
I think
it's not too expensive.
This is one of these myths that's definitely, I think, fading away as we see more and more types of households participating in clean energy. The things that are changing that are the price of the panels, the hyper competition in the marketplace. There was a glut of panels. There's some correction to that now, and there'll be some consolidation, but still it's dropping so rapidly in Hawaii, the price. The second thing is the offering of no money down leases and PPAs, power purchase agreements.
On-bill financing.
And then coming soon, on-bill finance and the green infrastructure funding. So what it means is, if you're a homeowner and you don't have 20 grand to sink down for a system, you can simply sign up for a 20-year contract and pay just as you'd be paying your regular monthly bill and be getting photovoltaic from some of these providers of PPAs. So we did some analysis of who is adopting solar on Oahu, and between 2002 and 2011, you saw the Kahalas, the Ainahainas, the Kailuas, but if you look at 2012 alone, a lot of that shifted. The percentage, the rate of change shifted to the Wailuas, the Wainais, the Waimanalos. So certainly the demographic is shifting somewhat, and more folks can participate in this because of the price, because of the different offerings, the financing. We're still not there yet. I think the missing piece is helping those who don't have a roof to put solar, letting them participate in some way. So if you live in the second floor of a 10-story apartment building, or if you're in the back of Nuuanu Valley,
there's a bill that allows condominiums.
Condos, but if you don't have, there's limited roof space there. Yeah. So as soon as that's exhausted, then you're out of luck.
You don't have the same footprint and thus
as a single family, right? So there's this idea called community-based renewable energy, And we'd like to see that adopted in Hawaii so everyone can participate. And it might be putting a solar, photovoltaic 5 miles away on an empty warehouse or on someone else's roof, and you getting the benefits of that energy produced. It would really democratize access to clean energy in Hawaii.
Well, now, you read some of the articles that Marco Mankelsdorf sends around.
Sure.
And over the past few weeks, he's been sending around this data, which seems to suggest that photovoltaic is actually declining.
The rate of adoption.
The rate of adoption, yeah. So what does this mean? I mean, in the path that you described, how do you factor that in? Are we okay? Is there something we have to do to make sure that this continues at the right speed? Is there something happening we don't realize? Should the group go back, at 2 o'clock in the morning discussion and figure out what's happening? What's happening?
I think a couple of things are motivating that. One is some clarity on the incentives. And the legislature has talked about this the last 2 sessions. What should the tax credits look like? And they still haven't resolved it. So there's a unilateral move by the administration to kind of ratchet things back. We think it would have been better just to have a real clear kind of glide path and statute of here's what you're going to get to put in the system, make it really straightforward. So that's motivating a lot of this. The second piece is the limitations on the grid. Some of it artificial, some of it technical. And so there are circuits that it's more difficult to get a system installed.
These are the same factors that lead to curtailing, or however you want to see that.
Right, in a way. So, it's incumbent on the utility to make those investments in the grid to enable everyone to participate that wants to, invest private capital in a clean energy system.
So are we in a moment of hesitation here? Is this going to pick up?
I think these are just growing pains. This is just within any new, because there's a lot of factors here. One of them is the utility business model and how it can be more nimble to, adopt more photovoltaic, both technically and economically, and have that sustainable, profit going forward. And just regulation keeping up with technology. I don't think anyone foresaw this drop in the price of panels that we saw the last few years.
Yeah.
So catching up with that, catching up with the financing. So no, if anything, it's a speed bump, but I think the arc of history is bending toward having a clean energy future, and people participating. I mean, that's such a powerful notion of folks taking control over their energy future, getting out from high energy bills, and owning it. That's a real powerful, I think, motive, and we're going to see more people adopting photovoltaic.
I wrote this article last week about Robbie Am and his departure from Lion Electric, and I began to see the whole thing as a kind of opera. I mean, this is an incredible experience. And our little discussion here today with you, Jeff, and Sharon and Larry, I mean, we're in a historic process. I mean, years later, they're going to turn around and they're going to say, huh, Jeff McElhaney said this or that, He was there. He was doing it. He was creating policy. It gets so excited. So, I mean, that's the way I become, and not all the players will stay on the stage.
Yeah.
And some players will move to different parts of the stage.
Some sing on a tune.
Yeah, right. So, I mean, that's what I get out of this. We are all involved in a fantastic historic process, no matter how slow or how fast or what the exact end product is or exactly what mechanics take us there. Isn't it exciting?
It is.
Oh, yeah. But so tell me, where did the legislation go that was supposed to have this nice way of taking?
I wish we knew, but it just
Next
like
year,
all the
yeah.
good legislation, gets to that conference committee, and there's some disagreement. There was not clarity of how much it cost the state, and I think that's where we hit the wall.
Yeah. Well, you had a really tough time answering my questions.
Yeah, they're challenging. I was waiting for some from Larry. Larry has.
Larry, go for it.
Larry,
You have 10 seconds.
One more.
Really?
Go for it.
I don't have any particular questions for you. Let's plug energy efficiency.
you go.
If systems are expensive and people are waiting for the
There you
landscape to sort out so they can buy that $30,000-$40,000 system, there's a lot of low cost, no cost things people can do. Solar thermal, like I said, you can get in for about $2,000. The program does have financing programs available today where they are 0% loans available.
this gets more important the further we go down the road. I mean, Jeff referred to it too. It's one of the big players, the big factors now going forward.
If you want to
Bigger than
reduce your
before.
investment in PV, work on efficiency in the meantime, so you don't have to invest so much for your roof.
You guys haven't talked in advance. Huh?
No.
Sharon, what do you want to close? Close with
We're
something.
going to close. Oh, that you should continue to do, to get involved and do the kinds of things Jeff's talking about, and Larry, do energy efficiency, but also get out there and get involved.
Okay, you heard it here. Sharon Moriwaki, High Energy Policy
Oh, we
Forum.
forgot it too.
Huh? State of Clean Energy here on Think Tank. Okay. And of course, Jeff Nicolino. Thank you very much, Jeff.
Thanks
you
for
very
having
much,
us,
Sharon.
Have to come back.
Yeah, thank you.
Aloha, you guys. You have to come back. Talk to you soon.
Aloha.